Welcome to Emotional Algebra. Emotional Algebra is a podcast that helps listeners to understand the subtle calculations people make every day in their relationships with others and explores the known and unknown variables that affect interactions in our everyday lives. It's a podcast to help us all become better people. I'm your co-host, Andrew Tavani.
And I'm Dr. E.
Dr. E, we took a bit of a hiatus, a little summer hiatus, and you were doing some traveling, world traveling.
Absolutely. My daughter just graduated from high school, so we went ahead and we did a little trip to Japan for a couple weeks. So
a couple weeks in Japan.
Yeah. Good getaway.
So that's great. Vastly different culture than the United States. Is this your first time visiting Japan?
It is. I've been more to Europe and Caribbean, Mexico places, but I've never been over to Asia. So it was a really different experience, great experience, and the jet lag and coming back has been something else.
Yeah, it's a long flight.
The pain is real.
Yeah, I understand. I was there, so as I told you, I went to Japan when I was 14 years old. I think that when I was there, at the time, I noticed a lot of cultural differences. I don't know. How did you feel about, the Japan culture versus U.S. culture? What did you see there?
Well, my daughter is she's very interested in Asian culture, and she has a lot of friends who are Korean and Vietnamese and Japanese, and a lot of different parts around the Asian area. And she was educating me on the things to do and the things not to do, and kind of how the culture tends to be. So, one of the things that's interesting is in Japan, when you order food or you get a drink, you eat it there or drink it there, or you take it in a to-go bag and you get to your destination, you open it up and eat or drink there. So even when I go to Starbucks, they would say, do you want a bag? And that was really to kind of give the direction that, we don't want you to get it and walk and drink while you're walking or eat while you're walking. So that was an interesting thing, but I can appreciate that, because in America, we're always on the go. We get our food and we eat it in the car. We eat it while we're walking down the street, or we drink and we're not really paying attention. So I think that the idea of the meal and what you're eating, it's a potentially a social thing. I think it's an issue of mindfulness, of being about aware of, what you're eating. So I think that was something that I had definitely had some respect for in that. And the other thing I appreciated is, they tend to be a more polite culture. So one of the things that I saw in Japan was, again, this pandemic of all the Instagram photos and the shots. And in Osaka, they have a place where they have this little river area that leads right out into the bay, that they have all these buildings. And there's this one building that has this guy running like he's in the Olympics, right from the Tokyo Olympics, but he's running. And now it's a big business on Instagram, or for Instagram photos, to get the picture there. And you have people literally lining up inside of this one store, and the store has created an extension of this image on that. And then everybody gets their picture trying to, they're running in front of this guy or part of this guy. But the reason I bring that up is the number of people that I saw who felt irritated with their photographer, who felt that they had to have the picture just right, who then were getting all stressed out about all this, and then all the people waiting and waiting and waiting. The concern I have is, what is the effect of this on understanding self-love, love for others, how it's affecting our self-awareness and our mindfulness. I think one of the things about the eating is, that I brought up just before, is the mindfulness of the meal, the mindfulness of drinking, the mindfulness of the tea ceremony, that our Americanizations, our Westernizations, to me, are depleting that. And I think that's something that we want to learn something from other cultures. And how can we bring back mindfulness with us? And to see that the way that we're posting and what we're doing, to me, on social media, and I know I open this up for a deeper discussion, and I want to, is what are we doing to ourselves psychologically, emotionally, relationally, spiritually, as we take this journey down this road that who knows where it ends?
Yeah, as you're describing that, Dr. E, it sounds like it's meant to be a sort of innocent thing, like just take your picture, it's a quick photo op, something fun to excuse me, something fun to remember the experience by. But that you're saying people are taking it way overboard, in the way they're approaching this, and having a personal photographer, and I don't know,
Right.
obsessing over getting just the right angle or whatever, so that it's perfect for Instagram or wherever else it may be
Exactly.
shared on social.
And the lighting has to be right, and the angle has to be right, and you have to, it's just tap 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 on the, on the iPhone to take more and more and more pictures, and then you go through those pictures and you pick just the right one. So all this has this person totally focused on themselves, on how they look, on how they're going to look. So how does that reflective of love? Well, if we're looking at that, we think that that is self-love, then I think we're getting misguided. And if we think that the number of clicks and likes and friends and things that we have that follow us and say, oh, you're so beautiful, you're fantastic, you're this, you're that, that if we think that that is an indication of the quality of who we are, I think we need to rethink that. Because to me, it's not about the quantity of photos. It's not about the quantity of likes, not about the quantity of friends. It's about the quality of the relationships that we have, the quality and depth of those connections. And I see that being depleted more and more and more. Now, what are the advantages of social media? That yes, my daughter has friends all across the world. She's made friends in Japan. She's made friends in Korea. She has friends that we made on our trips to France and Nice from somebody that was from Ukraine, that was a refugee from Ukraine that she keeps up with. So she's been able to make all these connections. I've been able to make and keep connections from my trips to Haiti and my trips to France and to Jordan and Israel and places like that, and Palestine. So I have these connections that I've been able to build that I see as abilities to connect and really understand people. And my concern is that people see those relationships and connections as the ability to say, look at all my friends, look at all the people I know, not to really connect to the self, but to feel like they're more connected. And I think what we're missing is mindfulness in that. And I think what we're doing is we're minimizing even the depth of those relationships of the people who become our personal photographers.
Yes. So you mentioned that. And I think that is an interesting dynamic in all of this. First of all, you talked about power too. What does
Mm-hmm.
this mean when somebody has to constantly be photographing someone else so that they can get their Instagram perfect shot?
Right.
What in a relationship? What is that doing to a relationship? What does it mean for a relationship?
Well, I think it affects the power dynamic, and it thinks that I think I believe, and not think, but I believe that it can marginalize that relationship. It's saying, in essence, in some ways, you are my servant in this place. Now, the degree to which, yes, we want a picture here and there, I can understand that. I'm not trying to play the dichotomous role that it's all bad or all good or all right or all wrong. I'm saying we want to look at the equity side of finding balance in this. And I think there are great inequities in this. I think that there are exploitations because people aren't mindful of what they're being asked and what they're asking of others. So
Right.
when you get in this place of being somebody's, personal photographer, and they're feeling that way, and you're irritated with them because they didn't take the photo right or they didn't make you look great. One of the things, and I talked about this long ago and earlier episodes, one of the things that I always taught my daughter, even from when she was learning to talk, I would say, where does your pretty come from? And she'd always go in here. And then I'd say, where does your power come from? And when she's little, she'd point to here. And then I remember one day I went to pick her up from her, daycare person, and the daycare person said, "Look what we did today." And she said, "Look at Grace's nails, aren't they pretty?" And my daughter was like 2.5, and I just went, and I just said, "That looks great." And I had this, afterwards I talked to the person who was watching her. I said, "I wish you had asked first before you did that." Because what I don't want her to do, even from an early age, is to learn that her pretty comes from the outside. And I was always, and my wife and I were very careful in exposing her to things like nail polish and makeup. And, we even had a close friend of us, who once for my daughter's 5th birthday, got her a whole thing of makeup. And, again, it's just things we become, I think, I don't want to say insensitive. I think we just become blind to some of those influences because it becomes part of our vernacular, the way we see the world, the ways we see life, in finding our beauty outside of ourselves. We're looking for love. We're looking for connection. We believe that the more likes we have, then the better we must be, the more likable we must be, the more lovable we must be. And what are we missing out on? We're missing out on ourselves. We're missing out on our connections. And that's why, again, I hope through this podcast, I am questioning people. And I hope that people are feeling challenged. And if you feel angry, that's okay, because the anger you might feel from this discussion, say, he's wrong, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, but ask yourself, why do I feel that reaction? Why do I feel the strength? Remember, anger protects, defiance protects, denial, resistance, minimization, maximization, all of those are defenses and ways that we protect ourselves. And when we protect ourselves from seeing truth, we're really only hurting ourselves, and we're hurting those around us we care about, and we're hurting the world at large because we're missing the bigger picture. And that's the one thing that I really wanted to bring out through this is, wherever we're at, I've had the opportunity to go all places around the world now, and I feel, now I've been to Asia again. People are people, and what we want is to feel loved. And we all have our times that we behave selfishly. We all have our times we behave from fear. We all have our feelings of insecurity. We all have our perceived inadequacies. We all, and we have these cultures that set up these dichotomous, hierarchical, ways of being that, again, even in Asian culture, there's a lot of hierarchy there. That hierarchy in some ways is being broken down, which I don't see as a bad thing. It's how do we transition and help other cultures also to transition to equity from hierarchy. And that's part of the key of what I think these discussions can contribute to.
Yeah, you said something there I want to follow up on, and that is acting selfishly. And I feel like that's what some of this may be. Like you said, I think it's perfectly fine to post some photos on social media and so forth. But at some point, it crosses a line from just pure documenting, hey, or sharing, here's what I'm up to, into
Right.
maybe a sort of self-centeredness or something even greater than that, perhaps.
Well, let's bring up that photo that you brought there, Eric. Tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about that photo that you found. And
Sure. So, and that's even the other side of it, right? So it's, I was talking sort of right there about what gets posted on the social media feed, but how does it end up there? And I thought this was a pretty fascinating article that I read a couple weeks ago. I'll bring it up. And this was actually the photo that goes with the article. The article is called "Your Boyfriend Isn't Your Cameraman," written by Freya India for a Substack called After Battle. And this, I think, really captures sort of the self-centeredness of maybe the extreme of what's happening with Instagram or social media, where all these boyfriends are enlisted to get the perfect shot. I think you were describing too, just the perfect angle. And this looks like it's a pretty beautiful place, some tropical setting, perhaps. What do you make of this phenomenon, Dr. E? And what's going on here, really?
Well, what I love is the dimensionality. You look at the dimensionality. I don't know if that was set up. I mean, it looks like almost one of those things that was set up, or it looks like one of those things that is just really taken in real life, IRL, as they say. So you have this dimensionality of picture after picture after picture of all these people trying to capture that. And then, as you indicated or brought up on our setup about the people in the background just kind of looking, and I don't even know if they're looking in shock, or I think they're just looking up. Yep, that's kind of the state of the nation these days,
Yeah.
So just because I think in this we have to get back to entitlement again too. Because I think there's a sense of entitlement that I should have these opportunities. I should have these pictures. I should have this right to stop people from getting in my shot, or to have my significant other stop what they're doing and take this perfect picture. And if they didn't get it right, I have the right to feel irritated. They didn't get the picture just right. And again, that's where our entitlement is stepping all over other people. And I always wanted to find the difference between, and I think there's a fine line between selfishness, self-awareness, and egocentrism. So egocentrism is just our awareness of self. We talk about egocentric beings from when we're little. It's kind of a Freudian term. We get an idea of self-awareness of me and what I'm aware of. And I think that self-awareness also involves awareness of other people when we're truly mindful and self-aware. And then we have that idea of moving to selfish, that is really a me first. And I think that's one of the keys of this whole discussion. So I think in that, as we look at this whole idea of the Instagram culture, the social media world, and how this to me, it's a pandemic of narcissism and narcissistic ideals and behaviors that are being infiltrated into all these other areas of the world. We have to look at the positive, the benefits, and also the detriments, and find the balance and to find ourself in that. And do I stand in judgment of it and just look down on it? And or do I look to be part of the solution and try to help educate and try to help approach people or put out information like this to help people to think about where they're coming from and why they're doing what they're doing?
Yeah. And I want to ask you too, what would a solution be for, let's say, somebody who's in a relationship where that person sort of becomes the Instagram photographer, right? This article is talking about boyfriends becoming, and a lot of people actually complaining about it, that it's not their full-time job, but they're feeling like they're being made to feel as though this is something they need to do. What's a healthy amount, and what's an unhealthy amount, and what can someone do in a relationship to say, I think that this is too much or this is overboard, without, really doing damage to the relationship as well?
Well, so many times I think people get in that place where they feel afraid to do damage to they feel afraid of the person's response, and they don't want to upset the apple cart. And it's a slippery slope, because it starts out, we'll take this picture, we'll take another, and take another, and I want to get a picture here. Well, we took one right over here. Yeah, but this is the right angle. And that's where both people want to be self-aware. If you go into a situation where, let's say you're out traveling and you want some pictures, say, you know what, I'm thinking of getting a picture here and a picture here, and these are the places, and I want to respect you, so I want to maybe just take a few pictures. If they don't turn out, okay, it's all right. But I think the thing is, if for some people, if every picture doesn't turn out, that's a bad thing, and that's where we're looking for perfection. So we're trying to present these things, and now look at the proliferation of filters. There are places in Japan that have rooms full of these photo booths. No lie, because I went there with my wife and daughter, and we went to one, and my wife and daughter did it, and then, it was cute. But there are all these girls and couples and fam go in, and they go in these photo booths where they can set up all of these filters. And the filters change the way people look. The filters make their face look nice and smooth. The filters give them big eyes and stuff like that. They change the back. All these things, to me, are becoming about self-worship. And remember, when we go back to that idea of victims, persecutors, and rescuers, and that whole thing, we talked about chronic rescuers want to be worshiped. Well, we're not talking about people who want to be rescuers. We're talking about people who just want to be seen as powerful, and more powerful than more, because beauty is a form of power. Muscularity is a form of power. And I think we have to see what are the ways that we're looking still to have power over in what we're doing. So how do we resolve this? And what are the answers? Self-awareness, communication in a relationship, looking at the world around you, and don't think that you're exempt to it, because guess what? I had some of my photos too, and I'm aware of these things. But yeah, would I like a good photo? We were in Kyoto at the 10,000 Gates Shrine of 10,000 Gates, and there was a family getting in our shot. I said, "Can you guys just give us a sec to get a picture?" But I tried to be respectful about that and waited till they got a picture, and I said, "Can you guys give us a space to get a picture here?" So yes, there is a respect about that. But the biggest thing I want people to really look at is to be self-aware, to catch yourself maybe in your own behaviors that might be considered selfish, that it's about me versus we, and look and say, really, how would I want to be treated? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And catch yourself and know that it's about evolution. It's about growth. It's about seeing your place in the context of the world, not your place in the place of how the world should serve you, but how you can also be of service to the world. And I think we go back to John F. Kennedy, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I'd extend that to humankind and into our relationships.
Yes. And also just not, I think going, well, as you say, and I think this is great, great advice that you give often, just be observant about yourself, right? And don't ask too much of others. This article really was, I think it struck a chord online. I thought it had hundreds, maybe even a couple thousand comments on it. But getting back to your idea of equity, if the guy in the relationship is just standing around taking pictures constantly, he may not want that. He may not have, it may not be like a reciprocal thing where she can then say, all right, I'll take pictures of you, because he doesn't want to share as much on Instagram, perhaps. So just being aware, I think, of how much you're asking of someone. And
we want to understand, everybody isn't us and we're not everybody. And we're all going to have our different views and feelings. And that, again, we all have our socialization as well.
So you're saying it's important too to just voice that, and don't, if you're pictured out, just say something politely that, I've had enough of this.
And even to remind that person, say, it doesn't mean I don't love you. I think that people equate that if you don't take a picture of me, then you must not love me. No, sometimes I'm not taking a picture of you because I love you, because I see how obsessed you're getting with the right photo, because I don't want this to become another form of addiction, that you're avoiding looking at what you feel isn't so pretty inside. And that's, again, all of this is realizing that everything we experience is part of our beauty, that everything is a part of growth. I was talking to somebody about where they were at and in life, and how they were just feeling kind of tossed about, and they felt afraid to move forward with things. And I have my Zen Koan cards that I have people just pick sometimes just to break up the way they're looking at life. And often those cards they pick are spiritually extremely appropriate. And there's a card there that, that's the wave and the sea are one. And the meaning of that card is sometimes we feel like the wave and we see the shore coming and we don't want to be crashed upon the wave. And what we're forgetting is that the wave is actually a part of the whole ocean. So the card is saying, go deeper and look deeper. And with that, then I have a picture of in Cabo near on a rock formation, the place I love to go and sit. But the picture looks like, I call the place the Old Man in the Sea, because it's this rock that has been shaped by literally hundreds of thousands of years of weather and waves, and even the formation of the rock to give it, the shapes and the breaks and how. But what it looks like is this old man's face, or even like almost like an Aztec chief's face looking out to the ocean. And I said, if you were that rock and you had sentience and you thought, oh my gosh, these waves and this weather are starting to break me down and I feel like I'm cracking, and you dreaded that, all you did is you dreaded the changes that were coming that you felt were being inflicted upon you, then, and you could stop that change, then what would you have missed? What would that rock have missed? What would we have missed? And that being almost my place of refuge and peace, of sitting with that old man looking out to the sea in that rock formation. So I said, realize what beauty was created through what could be considered chaos and tragedy and storms and waves, and even the idea that, and I pointed out to brothers, I said, did the rocks break and destroy the waves? And they said, no. And I said, did the waves destroy and break the rock? And they said, no, it just contributed to its formation. And that's what I want people to really look at in life, is to look at how life is contributing to our formation. How we choose to see it is up to us. How we choose to see ourselves in a picture or photo, or how many likes we get, or how many people are following us, or who our friends are, that is life's experience that becomes lessons for us. So what I'm going to ask people to do is go deeper. Look at yourself. Stop looking at the world and blaming the world. Stop with the victim stuff. Realize, I'm playing the victim. I'm looking for love in other places. It's time for me to look at my own blind spots that it's time for me to see. Those are the things we can look at, because to me, we have to really look at, let those pictures be taken of our soul, not of our surface. And that's, I think, the real lesson I want people to take from today.
Good advice, Dr. E. And relying on a little Zen wisdom there. And so it sort of brings this episode full circle. We started with your travels in Japan and what you observed there and brought it back. Very good.
Absolutely. And that's what I really think life is.
Yeah.
Is life is more of a spiral upward. Sometimes it is a circle. We end up in the same place again and again and again because we haven't learned, but it's part of the spiral of coming back to this place, hopefully a little bit more enlightened, a little bit more aware. And with that, what we're doing is, again, to bring in another Zen Koan, is we're making medicine from suffering.
Interesting. Very good, Dr. E. Some excellent wisdom from you, and be observant, be self-observant. That's the big takeaway here today, right?
Absolutely. And until next time.